But I did a new one with prettier pictures.
Oh, that's Anna. We're just going to forward it to you because it just came through. We're going to forward it to you, Anna, so that you have it.
Okay.
It says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
There's a delay.
Sorry. So don't pick your nose.
I need. Yep. Oh, it's muted. That's good. Okay.
What do you need?
I just needed to let me scroll down. See, it does this.
Right. Holly, it's under the chat. We've come full circle.
I know, hey. If I forget, remind me this. I have told some people to just go ahead and tune in on YouTube because they were having issues with the platform, but it's also going live on the platform in 2 minutes.
Say yes.
So.
And then you need to record too.
Yeah, and I'm going to start recording in Zoom just so that we have it in case anything goes wrong with the YouTube recording. We can, okay, here we go. Hit and record. So, but I will wait until the actual timing to like introduce you guys on the platform. So
can I do anything? We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Do you want me to have it on mute here? Or is that too distracting?
No, yeah, keep it on mute.
Yeah, oh yeah. Mode refresh.
Okay.
Looks great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful job, Tara.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Oh, good. Yay. At least I remembered to check my spelling before I sent it.
Spelling's totally overrated.
Please don't tell me that. I went through years at journalism school. Please don't tell me that.
Says the homeschooling mom over here.
My autocorrect turned lucky to live here into icky liver the other day, and I was like, oh, I should have read that before I press post.
My phone doesn't recognize the word put.
Okay, guys. I think we're live. Welcome, everyone, to the Fibreshed Roundtable. We're so glad that you're here, and should be playing on the main stage now. Yeah, looks like it. So I want to introduce you. Obviously, Angela and I are so grateful to have Anna Hunter with Longway Homestead and Tara Klager with Providence Lane Homestead and Jennifer Bowes with Riverside Farms. You guys are just, we have so much admiration for what you do, and we don't want to take up any more of your time because you have so much valuable stuff to say. We have chat enabled to the right, or to the right of the screen. So anyone watching, if you have questions, please type them in the chat because these ladies want to answer them for you. So with that, I'll let you guys take it away.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, guys. And I think we're going to start with Jen and let her kick us off today.
Yeah, so welcome. I'm really excited to talk to, well, Anna and Tara especially, because we've been talking a lot about fiber sheds in the last month. I am located in Brisco, British Columbia, and we've just started a Kootenai fiber shed. So I'm probably the fiber shed virgin out of the three of us, so at the least experience. But just the motivations of starting a fiber shed, I think, is really important to think about, because it's a way to create a network of people with like-minded ideas around fiber and process. So one thing I've identified is the motivations of starting a community and bringing those people who share interest in fiber, but also in supporting and educating producers, I think is an important one. Because farmers, in Canada, there's such a geographical challenge with the producers, so they're not always being able to identify the challenges and problems they're having on the farm, but also in getting their wool to mills. So this kind of platform creates a network to identify problems, to start addressing challenges, and maybe like in our region especially, we don't have any mills. So how do you get your wool to a mill so that you can start getting product to customers? It's a big challenge in our area for sure. And education in general. Just like, how do you skirt a fleece to prepare it for the mill? So a lot of farmers have very simple issues that they're dealing with that could maximize their profit on the farm, but they're not doing now. So for me, it's getting in touch with all the producers in the Fibreshed region and trying to address their problems and to educate them so that they're maximizing capacity on their farm. I come at it from a little bit of a different experience because I'm a British citizen as well as Canadian citizen, so I grew up with fiber around me. And then I was an art teacher for a long time. So building community within the arts world was always very important in terms of outreach for struggling youth, but also to just create a form of community with like minds. So I also found that traveling to other countries and then coming back, I spent a lot of time in Nepal, Italy, Turkey, where textiles and wool production was an integral part of their community and society in general. So the sense of value around wool is much different than it is here. So coming back to a consumer culture and one that has a lot of waste associated with product, for me, coming to a Fibreshed, I'm really interested in how do we bring back a sense of ritual and value in terms of process and final product, where we can, like, that's an opportunity to build community, but also to have intergenerational storytelling and just skill building within groups of people. And I think hopefully, if we can have that sense of value within our Fibresheds be brought back into our communities, then I think we've succeeded as a group. Just if we can, one, educate our producers, but also educate consumers so that they recognize the process and the value from start to finish of that product, and hopefully want to integrate it as part of their lives as well. I think that's kind of what I had to say, and then it'd open up to yeah, basically up to the others, and then we can answer questions. Yeah. Tara, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Tara. We're coming to you from Treaty 7. This is the Indigenous people of Blackfoot Confederacy. This is their territory, and the Stoney Nakoda. I'm here to speak to you specifically about challenges with Fibresheds. The Wild Rose Fibreshed started off strong. Some of you who are listening may be aware of it. It started on Facebook in a discussion group, and then that was January, and everybody knows what happened in March. So I've had plenty of time to think about challenges. And I believe there may be a PowerPoint that you're able to see that I tried to enumerate some of the things that have been bubbling away in my brain as we've been going through this. So the first challenge that we've had with Fibreshed is that it is originally an American organization. And there are challenges translating that American organization to a Canadian context. Obviously, population is a huge one. Jenn alluded earlier to the fact that our producers and communities are very spread out. We don't have the population base that they have to call on in the States. California is equivalent to the entire country here. So how do we go about addressing some of the challenges there when we need that larger land base to get enough people to kind of do the things a Fibreshed is intended to do? We had really chewed that over, and the possible solution that we came up with at the time, we haven't obviously been able to do anything with it at this point, but was to consider, instead of one organization, sort of more of a network of pods or hives. And each hub would be affiliated and connected to each other and to a parent organization. But if one hub got big enough, it could hive off and then become its own self-sustaining fiber shed. That was one solution. Just because of how widespread we all are, whether you're a producer, a processor, or a consumer of fiber products, there is that need to build community in whatever way you can. And as we all know, having gone through this online event as opposed to an in-person event, you know, there are certainly challenges. You can't rely everything to happen online. We do need those opportunities to get together. And by building hubs, that gives us a chance to do that. The second challenge that I wanted to talk to you about was conventional versus regenerative. One of the foundational core principles of the fiber shed is regenerative agriculture, not just sustainable. We're not trying to maintain the status quo. We're trying to regenerate, to improve. So conventional agriculture often has, whether it's fair or not, often has in the public eye a stigma attached to it of being a net, not necessarily being a contributor, not necessarily adding to the sustainability or regenerative capacity of agriculture. So one of the things Fibreshed was mandated to do, as it was set up by Rebecca Burgess in California, was to return land to a more natural state, of higher levels of biodiversity, better ability to soak up water and hold water in the landscape. All these things are very environmental, ecological things. And regenerative agricultures have different processes of doing that, whether you're a biodynamic farm, permaculture, holistic management, there are a number of different ways. But there is this tension between conventional and regenerative. And how do you go about maintaining the regenerative focus in Fibreshed while not alienating the conventional folks? So our solution potentially was to come up with two streams where you'd have another party, a third party organization, audit and then provide the accountability for those regenerative farms who want to take that step, that they can use then to market their goods. And that way the Fibreshed doesn't become just another marketing arm. It becomes a way of education, a way for people to improve their practices, and for those two groups, conventional and regenerative producers, to meet in hopefully a non-threatening and safe environment. The third challenge was the one-man show, and I think we all know about this. The third challenge is really the cult of personality, how one person can really drive something. And if something happens to that person, the whole organization falters. Or if they just get tired, because it's a huge commitment to do something like this. So the solution is to build the team before you build the Fibreshed. We tried to have a group of people in place, and we did. We had a great group of people in place. Unfortunately, COVID really kicked the stuffing out of that. And as life goes on and people fall away, we've had people move and relationship breakdowns and all these things that have happened, life happens. So we're really hoping that the Wild Rose Fibreshed can find its feet again. But in order to do that, we really need more bodies. So if you're interested, please let us know. We would love to have more people on board in that capacity. And the fourth one is one that I hope that you'll all listen to the way I intend it, and not necessarily the way it comes out. This, I'm speaking specifically to the Wild Rose Fibreshed experience. We need to diversify our group. There tends to be a certain kind of person, generally speaking, white women, who populate these groups. And we love you and we want you to be here, and we want the men to be here too, and we want Indigenous people to be here too. We want the Fibreshed to be a place where all these different groups can come together. As Jenn was talking about, there is a rich history in textiles, and we would love to learn from one another and to hear about other people's experiences and techniques and history and all these wonderful things instead of just having one group overrepresented. We want to truly represent our communities. So diversity is a huge challenge. And I think one of the ways fiber sheds can work to become more diverse and to be more inclusive is to look beyond fiber. I know that sort of sounds a little strange, but if we look at things like the tanning of hides and sheepskins, carving bone and horn skulls, which for some people is a big draw, these things are all things that are very much a part of other traditions. Our indigenous people, for instance, certainly hunters and trappers. These are things that we can use to bring other people into the fiber shed. These are people who could benefit from the things that we do, and we can benefit from the things as well that they do. And I would just love to see a wider conversation happening around what constitutes textile, what constitutes fiber, and how we can make better use of the whole animal in many cases. My final slide is just pictures of some of the things that you might see at our homestead. If you have any questions, or if you have any comments or things you'd like to add, feel free to reach out to me. You can get to me on Facebook, on Instagram, you can email me, or you can send the questions you have directly here. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara, and thanks, Jen. So I think when the three of us had gotten together and kind of talked about how we wanted to frame the conversation around Fibreshed, you know, Jen was going to talk about the need, why we need it, why there's the motivation. Tara was going to talk about some of the challenges, and I was going to like drive it home with all the opportunities. Usually when I talk about Fibreshed to people that have not ever heard about the concept, I generally say, like, imagine if locally grown textiles and clothing were as available as like your local organic food. Imagine if you could go to a market like your farmer's market and pick out your clothing or your footwear or your jackets or whatever that you need in order to, in the same way that you can buy local food. How exciting, and how would that change our reality in terms of how we experience clothing, but also the resources that we use to create it. So if folks have not heard of Fibreshed before, then you might be like swimming a little bit thinking, what is this all about? I encourage you to check it out. I'd encourage you to check out the main parent organization in California. And then we have quite a few Canadian fiber sheds across country. So I live in Manitoba. I'd like to acknowledge with a spirit of gratitude that I'm joining this call today from Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji, Cree, Dakota, Dene people, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We have the Pembina Fiber Shed. We've been operating for about 3 years. So we are registered as an affiliate, and we have done quite a few things to sort of grow the fiber shed movement in our region, but then also reach out and talk about it nationally, and really look at some of the barriers and challenges to producing those local textiles in Canada and how we can work together to change that. And so Tara's talked about some of the really specific Alberta-based or wild grows-based challenges. But those are similar, and those can be replicated across the country. So what are some of the solutions? I'm going to share my screen. Okay, it should be up. So someone, maybe Tara, give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Okay, great. Woohoo! So I think when we're looking at how to do this, how to be creative around solutions, that looking other places is really important. And I think the goal, or at least my goal and the goal of folks that I've talked with, is to you know, focus on the regenerative agriculture, to focus on labor. So substantial labor standards for people that are involved in producing textiles, animal welfare. And I think the other important part of it is regionalizing it. So decarbonizing it. Let's not spend any more time, energy, resources shipping our raw goods overseas to be produced and then sent back to us. Let's focus on our regional capacities. Unfortunately, we don't really have any. So this screen is from a project that they did in California, the Regional Fiber Manufacturing Initiative. And basically what they did was they looked at all the existing infrastructure that they had in Northern California to produce textiles. So from cotton to wool to fast fibers, they looked at what they had, and then they mapped out the barriers and the gaps in services. And now they are working to not only come up with those creative solutions, but also to finance them, because we can have all these amazing ideas, but without the investment, without the finance, it's never going to happen. So this is one opportunity that I think we could look at. And many of us across the country, or at least in Western Canada, have been talking about it. How could we build a regional hub for manufacturing textiles? Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC. What could we do? What do we already have? What resources exist? And how can we grow those businesses and those opportunities? The next one that I like looking at is the alternative wool pool buying. So in Canada, if you're a large farmer, a commercial farmer, you take your wool and you sell it to the Canadian cooperative wool growers, and they sell it to the buyers internationally, mostly China, and then all our wool is sent. Farmers aren't being paid an adequate wage, and that wool is then being shipped all over the place. So what are the alternatives for those producers at every level, for those that are at the small level and those that are at the large level? And how can we collectivize our purchasing of wool and our utilization of wool? And how could that fit into a regional initiative? What if we, pooled all the amazing fine wool that is grown on the prairies because we're the best place in Canada to grow it? What if we pooled that together and built on that resource? So that's another idea. I know I'm flying through these, but I don't have much time, and you guys all know I can talk for a really long time. So one of the things that we're doing in the Pembina Fibreshed is a project called the Community Indigo Project. So we launched it last year. It was a challenging year to launch a community-based project, but we did it. So we had 25 growers of indigo, and this means, maybe someone had 2 plants on their driveway, or on their planter boxes on their driveway, or maybe it was a farmer who had like a whole plot dedicated to it. We harvested it, we brought it all together, we produced pigment. So now we have it feels significant. We have a certain amount of indigo pigment for natural dyers in Manitoba to use that was grown here. So those resources stayed here. We know how it was grown, we know how the waste was disposed of, and now we can supply dyers here. So that's just an example of one project that can be really motivating for a community. Actually, I'm going to skip this one because I know I'm running out of time. But you are welcome to check out the Pembina Fibreshed page to look at some of the other stuff we've done, and it's been pretty inspiring. The last thing I want to talk about is that we've launched a Canadian national network of fiber sheds. So basically an opportunity for fiber sheds across the country to connect and reach out and really build sort of this idea of collective organizing across the country to initiate some of these ideas and some of these new initiatives. So I'm happy to talk about that, but I see there's questions coming up, and I don't want to take it away from also what's happening in Alberta, which I think is inspiring and exciting, even given the limitations. And so with that, there's some questions up here. Holly, are you wanting to moderate those, or do you want us to just take it on?
Yeah, I was thinking if you guys want to, because I know Tara has been typing, so I'm sort of copying and pasting her answers, but if you guys want to verbally address that would be awesome.
Okay. Okay, so first question, the logistics of local dyers getting yarn and fiber at wholesale from local producers. Could you address the best way for dyers to source from you? Do you guys want to take a stab at that?
I can say that for myself, I think probably the best, I don't have a separate wholesale rate. I sort of base the price of our fleeces on what it costs me to have the animals to provide everything that they need to grow the best quality fleece that they can. I think my best suggestion would be to decide, and Anna's got a great workshop she does about very wool specific, choosing the right wool to meet the right project. So find out exactly what kind of fleece you want, find out who produces that fleece, and then have that conversation directly with them. the fleeces that I produce are Cotswold and Border Leicester, and they're not necessarily going to be the fleeces that you want to use for certain kinds of projects, and they're going to be perfect for other ones. So find out what it is that you're looking for very specifically, and then talk to that producer. That would be my advice.
Yeah, personally, I find like I have a wholesale price for certain things like dryer balls if I'm selling large quantities. But right now, because we've only been able to produce yarn for 2 years, I still have very small batch weights. So for me, the challenge is building up my batches. And then you have a lag time from when you send your wool to the mill to when you get it back. So it can be up to like anywhere from 3 months to a year where you're getting your product back. So I agree with Tara, like reaching out to individual producers, seeing what wool that works best for you and what you're wanting to dye. But also, if you're buying large quantities, often an individual producer will give you a discount, not necessarily a wholesale rate, but like give incentives like free shipping or something like that. So have that conversation with individual producers and see they still need to make something. So a wholesale rate often doesn't kind of give you the profit margins you need to keep it going for small producers right now. But I think also the opportunity for long-term thinking, like do we create a wool co-op for fiber sheds where that you can have producers send wool. So that's kind of like a one-stop shop. And maybe that's like a 5-year plan, I'm not sure. But it would be nice for be able to have all these small producers come together where end users can buy product.
I think from my mill's perspective, that's one of the biggest gaps. Like I get asked probably 2 or 3 times a month for wholesale accounts for indie dyers. And I wish that I could fulfill those, because it would be so fantastic if our indie dyers had local yarn opportunities. But I think there's just not the opportunity to create as much as indie dyers need with the consistency. And it really exposes the need for more like medium-sized mills who can pump out that sort of consistent product in the quantities that dyers need. Yeah, that's it. I didn't see any other questions up there. I don't know if any others have come through. There aren't any. Well, look at that. We've just answered all the questions that people have about Fibreshed. Tara, if people want to get involved in the Wild Rose Fibreshed project, what's the best way to get involved?
Well, they can certainly message me directly. That would be fantastic. If that works for them. Otherwise, they can email me or leave a message on. There is a Facebook group, discussion group where all of this got started, and certainly you can find us there. Again, we are looking for warm bodies and people with energy and ideas and energy. So please do be in touch. We would love to hear from you.
And if people are on the call from the Kootenay region, Jen, how can they get in touch with you?
Right now, we've just been approved for affiliate status. So the best way is probably to reach out on our Facebook page. It's simply Kootenay Fibreshed, and we also have an Instagram page. You can contact either myself or Jules Slutwig. Our region is divided by a mountain range. So Jules is kind of focusing on like the Nelson Slocan area, and I'm working more with the Golden to kind of Canal Flats, Fernie, Preston area in the East Kootenay. So different kinds of producers. There's more end users in the Nelson side, probably spinners, dyers, weavers, and more your wool producers on the east side, I would say.
Great. And for Holly mentioned for international audiences, yes, I would recommend going to the main Fibreshed organization. I believe it's fibreshed.org, or maybe it's fibreshed.com now that I'm thinking about it. But for the main one, it's fibershed.org. And they actually have links to all the other affiliates, including the Canadian affiliates that are already recognized. And yeah, I think, if you're interested in what other Canadian groups are doing, we've got the Upper Canada Fibreshed in Ontario. We've got the Pembina Fibreshed in Manitoba. There's a new one starting in Saskatchewan, as of yet not named. Wild Rose in Alberta, the new one in the Kootenays. There is a Vancouver Island fiber shed and a Sunshine Coast fiber shed. So, and then there's an Atlantic Canada one that doesn't have a name either. So there's a bunch of really exciting activity happening across the country. And, you know, it's a really challenging time right now for producers, which are the ones that make up a lot of the fiber shed engagement. And so producers are like shearing and lambing and, you know, putting crops in or whatever. So it's kind of a interesting time to find the motivation. But that is also where Tara brings up the need for other people that maybe aren't producers, but are passionate about local textile production and can fill in those gaps when producers are more busy.
As producers, we don't need more expert producers, and we want everybody to be part of it, but that doesn't preclude your ability to be involved. There are so many things. I can't knit, so I don't know what knitters need, for instance. I can't weave. I don't know what weavers need. So I need to hear from those people because I know my sheep. That's all I know. And I'm very willing to admit that there are huge gaps in my knowledge. So please, you know, let's build the community. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be about community. It's supposed to be about disparate and diverse peoples coming together. So that's what it's supposed to be. So let's make it that by bringing as many voices as we can.
I find in the East Kootenays too, like I'm reaching out to producers and it's just they want the education, they want to know how to deal with their wool, but right now they're just burning it or insulating their chicken coops because they don't know how to get it to market. They don't know how to skirt it. And it's becoming a waste product for them. And so it's how do we develop ways to minimize waste and create efficiencies for them? And simple through just having shearing clinics and courses where they can learn to simply prepare their wool to get to the mill and creating ways for them to get it there.
Thanks so much, Holly, for having us talk about this and bringing up the issue of fiber shed. It's great to be having the conversation.
Yeah, thank you ladies so much. This has been so enlightening, and we definitely need to have you guys back for like a whole 2-hour workshop where people can just ask you questions. So Perfect. We'll sign off now. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you.